185milessouth.com.
Smash that Patreon button.
185 Miles South, a hardcore punk rock podcast.
What's up, everyone? We are back and talking hardcore. And this time we are going all the way back, arguably to the beginning, depending on who you are. But we're going to talk 1980. Helping out, you know him, you love him. It is the best dressed man on the pod. It is Daniel Sant. What's up, Dan?
Take me out tonight where there's music and there's podcasts and there's people that are old and barely alive.
Also helping out, it is Ben Merlis, a.k.a. Ben Edge, a.k.a. Bedge. What's up, Ben?
What's going on?
What is going on? And rounding us out, don't call him Cincinnati. It is the man known as Clevo. What's up, Clevo?
What's going on, guys?
What is going on? All right, 1980. Hell of a year, Dan, huh?
Oh, yeah. The pool to pull from is smaller because, the explosion hasn't quite happened yet. But, it's somewhat the next evolution in punk and the birth of hardcore. So it's a really interesting year to dip into. Some really great songs, though. I think because the pool is a little bit smaller, I think we'll be all kind of gunning for similar songs. So it should be interesting in that factor as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting year because first wave punk is like wrapping up and you have the second wave starting up. But things are kind of sketchy. Like if you listen to the interviews we did with Keith Morris and Lisa Fancher, 80 is such a strange year. Like the Circle Jerks, it's hard for them to find someone to put out the record, right? Like a lot of labels are passing and completely fuck it up, huh? So strange ass year. What do you think, Clevo?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of classics. It's, before what, really cements sort of like the US hardcore. I think, we're going to be focused in probably one part of the country, but I think we're going to probably get some more England in here today. And, yeah, there's a lot of overlap between old and new and just like classic bands and, bands that Ben wants to label a certain way.
Yeah, shamefully, but we still love you, Ben. Ben, breakdown, 1980, what's up?
All right, it's Zero Boys versus Big Boys versus Soft Boys. It's Dickies versus Dicks versus Buzz Cox. It's X versus Gen X. It's Black Flag versus Red Cross versus Agent Orange. It's Crass versus The Clash. Zach Oxnard is born and the world is never the same again.
What's up?
First gen style punk like the Damned, Ramones, Stiff Little Fingers, the Weirdos, the Gears, and the Professionals is still holding on for dear life, while a second generation that we know as hardcore is replacing it. Discharge from England, Tervit Cadet from Finland, Rondos from the Netherlands, and Circle Jerks from the South Bay, to name a handful. But evolution is never straightforward, and there is a transitional half generation between 1 and 2 that is having its heyday. If only there existed a number between 1 and 2 to represent these bands. I'm talking Angry Samoans, The Chiefs, Dead Kennedys with the OG drummer, Stimulators, Canadian Subhumans, Teen Idols, Toxic Reasons, and Adolescents. Black Flag loses vocalist number 2, Ron Reyes, and gets vocalist number 3, Des Cadena. Oi music is crystallizing into its own freestanding subgenre across the pond with releases by Cockney Rejects and Sham 69. The Exploited puts out their first 2 singles. Labels that are formed, Frontier, Discord, Clay, New Alliance, and Mystic begins putting out punk records. Significant comps, Rodney on the Rock and Oi the Album. Bands who form, Minor Threat, Bad Religion, Circle One, Minutemen. Bands who break up, Germs, Sham 69, the San Diego Zeros, and a few deaths, Darby Crash of the Germs, Malcolm Owen of the Ruts, John Bonham of the Kidding. This is a punk rock podcast. That's all I got.
Yeah. Ben, what did he say on the X thing? X versus who?
X versus Gen X, formerly Generation X.
Because there's also the band X from Australia that puts out an LP this year.
Oh, that's right.
So-
That the Australian X LP does come out in 1980. Good one.
Yeah.
A good record.
Aspirations. It is good. Although
Yep.
some of the songs are a little too jammy, but some of the songs kick straight up ass. So there's that. Okay, Dan, let's jump right into it. What is a Super 7 and what are the rules and the order we're picking in?
Super 7 is a round robin friendly competition to build the best playlist of songs that are from this year. You can choose the same band, but you cannot copy the same song. So once a song is taken, it is gone. And the order for this competition this week is Clevo, me, Zach, Ben.
All right. Clevo, what is the greatest punk or hardcore song from the year 1980?
You know, and I'm going to put this up there for possibly one of the greatest punk or hardcore songs of all time, but I'm going to take Bad Brains' Pay to Come from their Pay to Come EP.
Yeah, it's gone.
I love this recording because, you know, the Bad Brains really they re-record a lot of songs between Black Dots and the Roar cassette and Rock for Light. So you kind of hear the songs kind of the same, but for it being this early in the band, I think that this version is raw, but not too raw, and is not, you know, maybe as polished as some of the later times you're going to hear it. But it's just such a great song, and really just such a force that inspires basically all of East Coast to start playing faster. And just, you know, HR, great vocalist, all great musicians, which I always thought was crazy. The theory that, you know, they tried to be a jazz fusion band, but they couldn't play their instruments, because these guys end up being like really, really great musicians overall. Total package, you know, two song 7-inch, it's a 2-song single, like a true single. And, you know, really, most copies out there don't have a cover. I know I'm not one of the lucky ones that have a cover. So it's like that true, just, you know, that paper 45 sleeve, you know, Bad Brain Records, and, you know, really sets the tone for so much that's going to come after 1980.
Yeah. Before we dive into this, we should do a quick sidebar. Is this the birth of hardcore? What do you think, Dan?
I think that's a really good argument for it to be. I mean, nothing's this fast, nothing's this wild, and nothing is this controlled. You know, it's like controlled chaos. Like it's unbelievably fast, but it is in the pocket. And these vocals are so wild, yet being perfectly on the beat and having so much charisma. Everything about it. Yeah, I mean, anyone who hears this wants to sound like this. So yeah, I would say there's a good argument for it being the birth of hardcore.
What do you think, Ben? Birth of hardcore? Red Tape is faster.
Red Tape is faster. This version of Pay to Come isn't even that fast. Every time they re-record their songs, they keep recording them faster and faster. They're like a good test of like, how fast do you like your punk? Do you like Black Dots level speed? Do you like Roar Tape level speed or Rock for Light level speed? This happens between Black Dots and the Roar Tape. So it's kind of like medium fast. I think it's probably as fast as Love Song by the Damned. I mean, whatchamacallit comes out the year before and it's much faster. Out of Vogue by Middle Class. They're very influenced by the Dickies. The Bad Brains and Dickies are really fast. They're not hard, but they're fast. So it's sort of like, you know, I would call it 1.5, but you know, it's getting there. It's not there yet. I love it. I actually like the medium fast Bad Brains maybe the most out of the 3 or 4 speeds that they do.
May I just push back on that just a little bit? Yes, Middle Class is fast and it is a sound, but Bad Brains literally are hardcore, and many, many things of hardcore go on around this band from here, whereas the other stuff, not so much.
Also, Out of Vogue is 78. So it kind of goes to that it didn't spark like a giant movement of other bands like playing that fast at the time. I mean, if you're going back to the fast beat, there's that band, like that super proto band Blast from like 73 or something. But like, they're not trying to be a hardcore band. You know, you can't like label things going backwards like that when like they weren't trying to be a thing. You know what I mean? Like Bad Brains, Circle Jerks, like this is real ass hardcore. Middle Class too. Right. But it's hard to say that Middle Class sparked a movement when a bunch of things didn't come out sounding like that right after, where, you know, Bad Brains is 7 inches, 1980. look at DC in 81, it's all hardcore. You know what I mean? So that's why it's interesting. You know, I don't think there's any real consensus of what the birth of hardcore is. A lot of people say like Black Flag is a hardcore band, right? And I'm not going to argue against it. For my own opinion, it's just, is it fast enough that I can't downstrum to if I'm doing 16th notes? You know what I mean? So you can't to Pay to Come, right? Da 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 da. No one's that fast. You know what I mean?
Zach, the whole argument we're having right now is sort of the inspiration for the whole 1.5 thing I came up with, because there is such a gray area and there is no consensus that I'm like, well, it's something in between. Like, so much of this is like something in between.
Yeah, but I mean, you have shit from 77 that's like already in between, right? Like the Dills doesn't sound like Sex Pistols or Ramones.
Yeah, the Dills isn't particularly fast, but you're right. I mean, every band has its own style, or every good band has its own style.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but think about like the chorus of You're Not Blank. Like it's pretty aggressive, right? And I'm just saying, like, they don't sound like your typical what people would think of as a 77 band, but they're 77. So it kind of goes against the theory. Anyway, whatever. That's not what I'm trying to do. Clevo, you think Bad Brains birth of hardcore?
I think because the argument can be made because they stay with it and they evolve, like they take it the next step. Whereas, Middle Class just kind of, what did the Middle Class do after that? We always talk about Out of Vogue, but we don't really talk about anything else they did, right?
Yeah, and really, we don't even talk about that whole 7-inch. We're talking about that song.
Yeah, the B-side of Pay to Come's virtually ska music or reggae music, though.
That's fair. Okay, Dan, anything else on the Bad Brain 7-inch?
It's just a great like song title too. It's just one that like, oh shit, what the fuck is that about? Pay to Come.
Ben, what do you have on this?
I've never paid to come. Maybe we can interview someone who has one day.
Dan, where were you born?
Warrington General Hospital.
Go ahead and ask him the next question, Ben. We're doing this right now. Finally got it, huh?
Took me a minute.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. I would just say like this song totally swings, right? So once Pops said to me, like, that's the thing about hardcore is like it doesn't have swing, and maybe this is early enough that it still has that swing, because so much of hardcore is tempo changes and starts and stops, right? But this is really like just in a groove, and it swings. You can shake your hips to it. You know what I mean? So that's that. Okay, let's go to Dan for his number one.
Okay, I'm going to do this strategically because I know we're all after the same songs, but some of the other ones might not be grabbed. I don't know. It's just so difficult. So difficult to plan this. I always end up snookering myself and getting stuff wrong. But I am going to take Decontrol by Discharge.
All right.
The mid-tempo Discharge banger of all mid-tempo Discharge bangers, in my opinion. I love this song so much. As it says in the lyrics, it's so fucking sick. This song I really love the recording of the Decontrol 7-inch. I think it's the best recording of the first four. But we, get in those 185 archives when we do the insane task of One's Gotta Go on the first four Discharge 7-inches. I just think this is like what a hardcore mid-tempo banger with the toms and everything will be like going for here beyond this, and I think Cal's vocals are so like aggressive yet still, for lack of a better word, tuneful and gruff at the same time. I don't know, everything about it, I love it. It's just a brilliant song, and this is the birth of hardcore over there, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, we're pretty fucked up for not even mentioning that. So maybe we should just blow up the whole pod right now. But yeah, I think this is the second best Discharge mid-tempo banger of the year. So, but I love this too. And that was a fun and hard project doing One's Gotta Go on the Discharge 7-inches. Ben, what do you think about this?
Great pick. I often overlook this one because this is their second 7-inch. Both the first two 7-inches came out in 1980. Realities of War being the first one with the amazing spiky leather jacket on the back, and both of them have such a cool raw production to them. A lot of the time I remember someone making an argument like Discharge isn't a hardcore band, they're a D beat band. It's like, well, they invented D beat. You can't just say that. You can't just stick them in their own box and like, throw them away. It's like, this is total hardcore. And it's like, it's not particularly smart lyrically because they often just repeat the same lines a lot, which is something that usually drives Zach nuts, but I can't imagine you're not making an exception for Discharge doing that, because it's just sort of their perfect, very repeatable style.
It's different in UK 82 and what would later be called D beat. Like, there's such an economy of everything, right? So there's an economy of words, there's an economy of riffs, and it's like that repetitive nature is what makes the genre spectacular. So it's different when like you're a youth crew band or something and you have 3 verses and 1 repeats, right? It's like, just cut the 3rd verse, stupid. What are you fucking doing? You know what I mean? But Discharge and, all the D beat stuff and all the UK 82 stuff, like, it's kind of a part of the style. Either you like it or you don't. So, and I mean, Discharge are the masters, of this. So I love it. This is a great pick, Dan. Okay, let's go to God Damn It, It's Me, and I'm not ready, but I'm going to take the greatest Clash song of all time, and that is Warhead by the UK Subs. I love this song, and it's pretty wild to take like Dan, is this a reggae song?
I would say it's got some vibes to it, but I would say it's a punk song.
Yeah, okay. It's like more like clashy than like a straight punk song. But this thing is so sick. Like, they tease you forever before they hit like the big hook. And this is an example of like, sometimes I just wish solos would go twice as long, because like, you're already doing the solo, right? So you got the Scarlet Letter, just fucking go for it. You know what I mean? And yeah, they just tease and tease and tease, and they finally get up to Warhead, Warhead, Warhead. So good. And then like you add like the singer comes back in and he's shouting lyrics, and then you have like the solo kick in again, and it's just like this ultimate fucking face melt moment. This is just a masterfully laid out song, and it's like one of those examples where like, I just think punk and hardcore is the best music in the world, and this is that. Like, this is a chill ass song, but it still has like really biting lyrics, pretty grim lyrics about war, and it's got that nice big hook on the end, dude. I fucking love it. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, this is one that is a builder. Like, it starts out with the bass, then it just has the drum beat, and it just is ominous. It like, the vibe of the song is matched by the lyrics of like, soldiers of Islam loading the guns, like there's kids in Africa with Tommy guns, like all of it just like an ominous feeling of like destruction all over the world. And then there's like the almost like football chant of the Warhead, Warhead later on, and it's just so good. It just builds and builds, and it doesn't really like unleash, which is I think the best part about it is just a, oh my god, we're fucked, vibe, and it's so good. And I love Charlie Harper's lyrics and vocals on this song. And there's a great part in the film This Is England where they're leaving that horrible National Front like rally, and they're in the car and they're listening to Warhead while driving down the street. It's just it, and then they kick the one kid who's like, "You don't believe that shit, do you?" They kick him out the car while Warhead's playing. It's like, oh shit. It was just good to see it in that film at the time.
What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I always think of the movie This Is England, which I can't recommend enough. I think this is the only punk song in that movie, which is awfully strange, being that it's about skinheads in 1983 in England. The entire soundtrack should be Punkanoid music, but this is what we get. And UK Subs at their best are, is some of the best punk music ever made. And I would say this is an example of UK subs at their best. Fun fact, all their albums, or their first 26 albums, are in alphabetical order. You know, the first one starts with A, the second one starts with B, the third one starts with C, and on to Z. And they actually got past Z, and I forget what they did after that. So this is B, Brand New Age, second album. Emotional Blackmail being another excellent song off of this record. Definitely a band that made too many records and too many songs. But when you find the gems, it's like, it's the chef's kiss.
The other one I love off this is Organized Crime. I fucking love that song. So, all right, let's go back to, let's see. We're going on down. We are going to,
Benzino.
We're going to Ben. Ben for his number one. Ben, what is your best punk or hardcore song in 1980?
It's not my imagination. I've got a gun on my back. I'm talking Black Flag Revenge off their Jealous Again 12-inch EP. This is the Ron Reyes fronted version of Black Flag that you can see in Decline of Western Civilization. This is the most just pissed off song I've ever heard in my life. There's something about it. It's like snotty attitude, but just pure anger and rage behind it. It's, an anti-police song, and it's a very personal song. We got arrested the other night at Blackie's for playing punk rock music. I could do the whole speech from Decline, but it's like, I always talk about every now and then we get songs, or we get records by bands like Stigmatism or the Invertebrates, like newer hardcore records that I call break furniture music, like music that when I listen to it, I'm just like, I want to smash everything in the room right now. Like Revenge by Black Flag is like the ultimate like furniture breaking song for all time. And it's like, it's also like a very clear recording. You think of like, oh, we're in the Stone Age of hardcore punk. The recording quality must be, muffly. It's like, no, not necessarily. Like this sounds like as clear as day. And you have the beginning of Greg Ginn doing his, he does these things where he'll play power chords and he'll intersperse them with little mini leads, like almost like he's playing rhythm guitar and lead guitar at the same time. You don't get that on Nervous Breakdown. And it's sort of his style from that point forward. From Jealous Again on to, I guess, to today. I don't want to think about Greg Ginn playing guitar in 2024, but this is sort of the beginning of that sound.
It's such a gnarly song, but also like Rod Reyes can't help himself from being a little tuneful, right? And it's funny because he gets the most tuneful on the gnarliest line, right? I won't cry if you die. It's like, oh, that sounds pretty, So yeah, it's so sick. Clevo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that this is really, we're talking about the birth of hardcore. I think that this is really where I think Black Flag probably takes that step. It's hard to say that a Keith Morris fronted Black Flag isn't more hardcore, but I feel like this is like the next step towards just like harder. But I think that it's also, it is something about Greg's like abrasive guitar, and it's just really like, the anti-cop song, and just like, it's just like so hard and out in front. But also I think that, talking about Decline and the Decline version, I think that adds an aura to this too. Cause like you see it, and, there wasn't a lot of footage of these bands, especially like, before the internet, and when stuff gets more compiled. So seeing Black Flag play these songs and seeing just like the energy that goes behind it takes it to the next step.
I love it. Okay, Dan, let's go back to you for your number two.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna stay with a little bit of strategery here. And
It's Clevo.
Oh, my bad.
That's me.
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
I got too many fucking tabs open. Okay, we go back to Clevo for his number two. What's up?
Well, first, I'm shocked that this is still here, but keeping with the anti-police trend. I'm going to say dicks hate the police,
Yeah.
which also may be one of the greatest punk or hardcore songs ever written. Man, talk about pissed off. Talk about like just like angry. Talk about, in your face. Just like straight up comes out like, the dicks hate the police, and it's just really there's definitely some choice lyrics in here, but I think of the time, and I think speaking from the point of view of the people that he's calling out, just really it's playing the role. That's not what he believes. So yeah, just really, if this is one of those songs that I think that if you were like, what is punk rock? You could give them this and be like, this is punk rock. Like this is hardcore punk. This is what the sound is, because I think that just encapsulates it, just perfectly.
Yeah, it's not necessarily fast, but it's super gnarly, and the words are great, right? Like especially that third verse when they kind of create their origin story. You know what I mean? People tell policemen they've met their match down in the desert sands. The dicks were hatched. So sick, dude. Yeah, I love this. This was my next pick, so you jacked me, and yeah, I love it. Absolutely perfect. And this got re-released in the last, maybe it's been 10 years now, but I got some bootleg or repress on 7-inch and stoked to have this in my collection. Dan, what do you think about this?
I think this is so good. This could easily, like, yes, Clevo's right. You could hand someone this and say, this is what punk is. Lyrically, it's creative. It's brilliant. It's against authority. Musically, it's dripping with talent, but you still feel like lots of people learning could kind of come up with this if they threw themselves into something. But it could also like literally be like a band from the 60s at the same time doing this kind of thing as well. Like it could easily have been, like some weird Nuggets offshoot band like doing this as well. Just the way it sounds, it's got so much like Americana in it at the same time. It's just such an all timer, and like rest in peace to the singer who passed not that long ago. And
Is Gary Dan is Gary Floyd. He died in April, I believe. Yeah,
I was going to say, the reason I stopped myself because I almost said something absolutely stupid. So that's why I didn't say the name, because can you just cut that? Sorry.
Yeah. Maybe. Okay, I'll take a note.
I'm sorry. I was going to say R.I.P. George Floyd. And that would have been terrible. So, okay. Rest in peace to Gary Floyd, because this is an all-time punk classic.
Yeah, and take a look at their lineup, because the bass player might be a trivia question on a future episode. So keep your eyes peeled, people. Ben, what do you want to say about this?
Single coil punk, baby. We always talk about that, and this is very much that. And think about like being a gay man in Texas in 1980. That shit couldn't have been easy. Like, I'd be afraid just to be in Texas in 1980 or now for that matter. Just kidding. Texas is great. Texas is the reason.
He's messing with Texas.
Don't mess with Texas. We love Texas. We love the dicks.
Well, to that point too, being out in the punk scene, because was it the Big Boys or the Dicks that had beef with the Bad Brains?
Big Boys.
Well, but the same scene, I mean, and for the same reason. So, I mean, being out in 1980 was probably hard enough. Being out in Texas in 1980, being out in Texas in the punk scene in 1980, I think the combination of all three of those, that really is like, being at the forefront and putting himself out there.
Yeah, and hating the police because you're getting fucked with 24/7 by the police just for being a punk.
Yeah, we should mention Dave Dichter also, right? Of the Stains.
Of course.
Before they moved to San Francisco. Okay, Dan, let's go to you for your number 2.
Well, I'll just keep a theme rolling then. I'll go with Police on My Back by The Clash. This is not an edgelord thing, but I really do completely align myself with Mick Jones sang Clash songs even more because I feel like they're not as prevalent and they are a little bit more special, but I just love the sound of his voice. Not only is this song amazing and definitely a bright spot on an otherwise difficult to ingest Clash opus. I mean, there are some other great songs on here too, don't get me wrong, but this is the number one. And it is a cover of The Equals from 1968, which is brilliant in its own right. Definitely listen to that version if you didn't ever know this was a cover. Some people may not have. It's a cover of a brilliant band that have lots of bangers. Baby Come Back being my favorite, maybe Viva Bobby Joe. I don't know. But the way that the Clash do this song is so great. And the part, well, first of all, they do the police siren in the guitar, which then Coxsparrow would then, do for Riot Squad later on really well. And it just has a stomp to it. It's really top of head and just absolutely amazing on drums. I mean, it's the Clash. Edgelords out there will say, oh, the Clash is world music, or the Clash is, like Ben from San Diego says, the Clash is punk for soccer moms. Fuck that shit. The Clash were getting, up front at the 100 Club, getting spit on in the heart of this, getting chased around by police and teddy boys, etc. in the heart of it. The Clash is punk and have written some of the best songs ever. And then when they're taking on someone else's song, they're doing it amazing. And I love the part where it kind of drops. There's a little bit of negative space. And then it's the, what have I done? What have I done? That part. And then it comes back in. I've been running. Oh, it's so good. And then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Anyone can sing along. It's the beauty of punk. It's amazing. This song rules. I'm happy to have it on my list.
Ben, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so this is on Sandinista, and it's ironic that their most punk-sounding song on this album is a cover of a song from 1968. But this is sort of my go-to album now for The Clash because it's a triple LP, and 1/3 of it is incredible, some of the best music made, and 2/3 of it is should have never been recorded. And thankfully now in our modern times, we can create playlists where we exclude songs we don't like. So I have the 12 song version of Sandinista, which absolutely includes this one. And I can just listen to that and be like, damn, Sandinista is an incredible 12 song LP. And Clash, in my opinion, might be the greatest rock band ever, just because, the first album is definitely punk and then they sort of branch off into other types of stuff. But they definitely are a band that they swung for the fences and they hit far, far, far more than they missed, which is commendable.
Hell yeah. Okay, I'm going to take my number 2, and I am piggybacking on Ben's last pick. I'm taking No Values. Again, that whole record is pretty great, although some of the lyrics, I guess, we feel strange about them now, right? Although Ron Reyes was a Mexican dude, so White Minority is a complex song to look at. And then the other one is very incelish, I guess, or very, I don't know. How would you describe fucking Jealous Again, Ben?
You're jealous again. I don't know. Maybe the guy who wrote the song is jealous. Yeah. It's Greg Ginn was an angry man. He probably still is an angry man. And wouldn't want to be his girlfriend.
Yeah. So I'm taking No Values. It's either the best or the second best song off the Jealous Again 12-inch. And dude, it's punk rock to the core, right? I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. What the fuck, dude? That's how you're starting it off. And then again, catchy ass chorus. I got no values, nothing to say. I got no values, might as well blow you away. So good, dude. It's just canon hardcore punk. That's what's up. And hell yeah. Ben, you got nothing on this for real?
I mean, it's incredible. It's like there's like a pause at the beginning of it where you kind of hear them just get ready to play that first note, and it's just like a bomb going off. It's just like an explosion of energy. And now we have a great punk rock festival in Pomona named after this song, which I did not attend.
They declined my credentials, so No Values, go fuck yourself. What's up? Okay, Ben, let's go to you for your number 2.
All right. I'm going to stay somewhat in theme with your pick, because what happened in 1980 is the first Black Flag singer started his own band, I think in 79, but then the Circle Jerks LP Group Sex came out in 1980. But just before that, they had a song on the Rodney on the Rock compilation, Rodney on the Rock Volume 1, and it is Wild in the Streets. This is not the same version from the Wild in the Streets LP. This is the original. It's also in theme with Dan's pick because it is also a cover. It is a Garland Jeffries song. And I think Keith Morris on this very podcast explained that they were actually covering the British Lions version of Wild in the Streets. So it's a cover of a cover, which happens all the time. Lots of examples of that. But I like this more than the LP version because you don't have the gang called the Wolves. You have to choose, play with the boys, demand to lose. You don't have that third verse. Not that I hate that verse, but you also have teenage jive, fucking wreck, and he G-rated it in the LP version, and he sings walking wreck. I prefer the fucking wreck version, and it's got this really cool, I don't know, a little bit more raw recording. And it at one point, this was definitely my favorite punk song ever.
Nice. Oh, Zach, are you there?
I was on mute. This is definitely a good favorite punk song. I would have no issue with that. Clevo, what do you think about this?
Yeah, and this version's great too, just because it's a little bit different than the LP version. I was turned on to Wild in the Streets in the movie Thrashin', which is also a great use of this song. Probably before I had actually heard the album Wild in the Streets, which is so crazy because I think I got Group Sex pretty early on. But such a great band, and really for Keith to go from being in Black Flag to Circle Jerks to just be on like so much influential and so much classic and so much essential music is pretty crazy. With that being said, I am also going to take the Circle Jerks. I'm going to take maybe a bit of a deep cut off of Group Sex. I'm going to take the song Paid Vacation.
I love this song.
For some reason, the song has been, pretty of the times for about 40 years, 45 years now. I think that, it starts with that little, like that hammer-on riff in the beginning, and just kind of launches into that sort of, kind of off-kilter staccato, like verses. But yeah, it's not Vietnam, the way he says Vietnam. I love the way he says that. Just another oil company scam. Get your money, place your bets. It's Afghanistan. And then the chorus where he's like, fix bayonets, check grenades. I think that it's just so catchy. It's just such a good song. And I think that this song gets lost a little bit on Group Sex. I think when you hear people talk about the record, they don't talk about this as much. And I think that this is definitely one of the top tracks on that album.
This might be my favorite Circle Jerk song. And I think that it does get overlooked, but I think that it's songs like this that make this record one of the greatest hardcore punk song or hardcore punk records of all time, right? If you think about it, it's like what sets apart a really good album from a great album? It's like the songs that people don't consider the tentpole tracks being so fucking good. And this is a perfect example. You know, it's just absolutely great. And yeah, that chorus is so unique in the lyrics he tosses out, because it doesn't really come off like a traditional chorus, but the melody is so nice coming out of the verse. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, great song. And the verses are almost like that Johnny Cash snare, like super fast. So and then it's got that single note guitar thing that's like really ominous, and then it just breaks into those hardcore punk rock choruses. So great. There's so much interesting stuff happening within like a 14-minute span on this record. I think that's part of what makes this one of the best hardcore LPs ever, is that it's everything is short and fast, and there's so much still going on. You know, it's not samey at all.
You know, you were saying there's so much that happens in 14 minutes, but you know, the song's only a minute and a half. There's so much that happens in the minute and a half because
That's right.
there's a lot of lyrics in this song. And then there is that backwards, like shuffly beat. And then the little hammer on lead. So there's a lot going on. And they just pack so much into those 90 seconds.
Hell yeah. Okay. Dan, what do you think about this?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of just being thing, but I was going to just say that shuffle with the negative space is so vibey. And then when it just ramps up for the fix bayonets, check grenades, it's like such a transition. It is like, you know, we were talking about Birth of Hardcore and stuff like that. Like this is up there too, you know, in that kind of just explosiveness.
Yeah, it's crazy because like this song is probably the same speed as Pay to Come, right? So
yeah.
They're in like the same speed range, and then this LP just fully goes gonzo on that last song, Red Tape, and is fully fast hardcore. Okay, Dan, let's go to you for your number 3.
Okay, number 3. I am going to go for Mystery by the Wipers. We always talk about, you know, anyone who listens to these Super 7s knows, we talk about those songs where the verse and the verse melody is even better than the chorus. It just shows like the level of songwriting. And that is definitely the case here, you know, with the way that, well, the song comes in just like, it's just got, you know, a nice steady beat, like the guitar playing's amazing, but then you think I'm retrospective, like, oh, it's so good. Like the vocals are incredible and the vocal melody is just unbelievable. Like, and then I think Zach and I were talking about this at Heartwork Coffee earlier, like just that it, you know, the you don't care about it is like almost like a bridge, and then what you get, like a line for what the chorus is, but can't you see it's a mystery, and then it comes back to the brilliant verse again, because the you don't care about it parts are, I mean, I guess they're technically the chorus, but they're so much more like a bridge. I don't know, this is really just upper echelon songwriting, and this is a song that I came to later in life, like in the, I guess, late 90s, early 2000s, maybe. And the minute I heard it, it just captivated me. This and the song Tragedy from this record, both of them, like, I was just like, what? Who is this band? I need to know everything about them, because these two songs are two of the catchiest songs I've ever heard. So, yeah, Mystery by Wipers.
We forgot to put this on the best LPs of the 80s because we thought this was 79. So we should say that. But Yeah, I love this. The verses are great. I don't know that. Can't you see it's a mystery? That's got to be the chorus, even though it's just very short. And
Oh yeah, no,
massive.
I said that's what it is. The you can't don't care about it is the kind of like the bridge before it is what I, you know, who knows.
It hits that like in the bridge spot. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, when he hits the note of "Can't you see it's a mystery," it's so beautiful, dude. Coming off that verse, it's already so nice to the ears to be able to like take it up that one more notch. Oh, it's so good. I love this. There's a handful of songs on this LP that are like some of my favorite songs of all time of any genre, and this is one of them. But I got enough that I'm taking them, later round. Ben,
Ooh.
what's your take on this?
Yeah, this is probably the best Wipers song. They're one of those bands that has like a million albums, but everyone only seems to listen to the first three. So I'm very curious if there's good stuff in the later catalog. But this is great. I want to say it's Oscar from Headcut and Catholic Spit. It might be someone else who painted the entire record cover, the album cover, on the back of his leather jacket, like in color and everything. And like, take a minute, everybody listening to this, look at the album cover by Wipers. Is this real? And just imagine how long it must have taken this guy to paint that on the back of his leather jacket. Like, my God, look what's going on. It's like it's so involved. Super influential and strangely influential on music. Just like Dan was saying, late 90s, early 2000s. That's probably around the time I first heard them too. That like there was sort of a delayed influence. Like a lot of bands in the 2000s came out that said, our primary influence is the Wipers. And it's like, this came out in 1980. Like maybe there's hope for us people who made records that, weren't acclaimed at the time that they came out. And an entire generation of people will try to sound like us in the future.
But I think this was also influential on like the grunge stuff too, because there's a lot of like soft aloud shit on this record, and that's the stuff that I don't really like on it. Like Return of the Rat, shit like that. And there's other the songs that I skip are kind of like that, right? They're soft aloud.
Yeah. This is an influence on a lot of those bands, although I don't really hear it too much. I mean, like they were in the Pacific Northwest at a time when there weren't a million bands up there. So of course, people getting into the punk scene would get into the Wipers, but like this is like a 0% grunge band. You know what I mean? It's like whatever they took from this, they definitely mutated it into something totally different.
I don't know. Like if you listen like that song D7, like it starts out all like dark and ominous and then like busts into something else, right? That's kind of like grungy. But yeah, okay. I love this. This is a great pick, Dan. And let's go to...
It's you. You could just roll into your Wipers pick if you want.
Yeah, I could. Or I could roll into anything else. Let me see what I want. I'm going to take Red Tape just because it's there. And it's just insane for 1980 because we look at stuff and we're like, yeah, this is hardcore. Like, of course, Discharge is playing hardcore right then. Bad Brains were saying it's hardcore. But like, if you look at the speed of this song, and it's not just like a dude pushing his like fast beat to the limit, it's the tom fills too. Like Lucky is getting down, dude. And he's just putting the bar so high on what like fast hardcore is. It's really saying chase this, I think. And you'd get a whole bunch of bands the next year trying to chase it. So yeah, I mean, like it's just pretty fucking canon for hardcore. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I gotta say, it's not even just the speed of the band; it's the Keith Morris vocal attack of "Rat." That's hardcore, like straight up. Like there's no, that's punk. Like that aggression is to the next level. That's bypassed the old 1.5, my friends. That's straight up in the 2.0. So
agreed.
It's amazing.
What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, it's like drums as lead instrument. You don't really get this on too many other songs, just in the genre in general. And what tripped me out is like about 3 years ago, I saw a photograph of a set list from Black Flag in 1979, and Red Tape was on the set list. And I'm like, what the fuck? This was a Black Flag song? And Bill Stevenson broke it down. He said that, the song No More by Black Flag, it's on Everything Went Black. It's also on Damaged. So when Keith Morris was the singer of Black Flag, it was the music that we know as No More, but with the lyrics we know as Red Tape. So instead of no more, no more, no more, no more, it was like no more red tape, no more red tape. So it was sort of, if you can smash those together in your brain, that's what it was. So it's this not really a cover, because the music is completely different. And it's sort of like, this is the last song on the album, right? Is that right, Zach? I should know this. Yeah, yes. It's like sort of this seems to be the one most people gravitate towards, which is interesting, because a lot of, to have it be that buried into the album and have it be the one that, I guess it leaves a lasting impression because it's the last song. I don't know, but this is the Lucky Lehrer experience, right?
So sick. Clevo, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a great song. And, when we did the 1980 episode, I talked about that punk rock karaoke. I actually ended up singing this song at punk rock karaoke. So that was like one of my like highlights of performing, is singing this on stage with Greg Hudson. So that was cool.
Hell yeah.
That's when punk rock karaoke played the Casbah, I did Minor Threat. So take that, everyone who says I didn't pick Minor Threat in the Super 7.
Yeah, but notice Dan didn't take the song Straight Edge, so the gimmick lives on.
It wasn't one of the ones that they'd put up as the set list.
Dan, this is me doing the John Candy, oh, sure, gif. Okay, let's go to an interesting point. Okay, we go to Ben for his number 3.
Gonna stay on the Rodney on the Rock comp, and I'm gonna pick Amoeba by the Adolescents. Again, another song that was re-recorded for their LP, but this is the version for me. And funny is, Posh Boy years later put this out as a one-sided, one-song 7-inch single, just the Rodney on the Rock version of Amoeba, and with like photographs of, like a photograph of a ballerina on the cover. It's like, what is going on here? But this is the beginning of the Adolescents, or on a record. They had formed at the beginning of 1980, and it's sort of like, this is probably the song that they'll be remembered by, unless some other song is in the Tony Hawk soundtrack, because that seems to be, the only way anyone younger than us finds out about this kind of music. But like, for a band that had so much, there's so much pain in Tony's voice. He's still a teenager at the time. He's an adolescent. That like, this song that is pretty nonsensical. Like, I've heard people say, oh, it's about, the punk scene forming like an amoeba. It's like, is it really? I don't know. I don't know what the song's about, but it kind of doesn't matter, because it has 2 ripping guitar solos traded off by Frank and Rick. And Rick was on this very podcast, and he explained to us which brother plays which solo, which is awesome.
That was so sick. Yeah, I love the dueling solos. Just it's like Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King, But I'm not making a judgment call on who's better in the Adolescents. But yeah, it's Rick. Okay, let's see here. Also, dude, if we're sticking with the Rodney and the Rock comp, Agent Orange Bloodstains is on that, I believe, right, Ben?
It is an earlier version.
Yeah, but Clevo took it for 81, so no one should take it. That's weird. Okay, let's see here.
Clevo.
Go. Yeah. What?
It's Clevo's turn, I believe.
Yeah. Clevo, let's go to you for round number 4.
Right. I'm going to go back to the Discharge from the Fight Back 7-inch. I'm going to take Always Restrictions, because I just love Smash to Fuck the Fucking System. It's just such a great chorus. And Discharge, yeah, we already talked about them, but Discharge really, coming in with the DB, and this whole 7-inch is just such a ripper. And it's really, I don't really know much more to say about Discharge, but this really is like, again, talk about being punk, talk about being reactionary. And yeah, I love that chorus.
It's so good, dude. It's so good. This is like maybe the angriest he gets, because there's that, and then there's also the first line on the song that I'm going to pick if Dan doesn't jack me, and I don't think he's going to because he already took Discharge. But yeah, okay. Let me see here. Jesus, so many tabs that I got to get to now. Dan, what's your take on this?
I mean, Clevo said it, like, this part, blah, 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 like, it's going, and then drops, smash the fucking system! Like, the way the music drops out so that line could be delivered, and it just launched hundreds of fists in the air of, like, let's fucking smash this system. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah, you have this part, and then also, I mean, the title track, right? The fight back, it's like, come on.
Also, this has a line, Thatcher, you're so full of crap, which is so true. But they should have said shit.
It's nice that he lays it down so you can say it at the dinner table. So that's respectable. Exactly. Okay, Dan, number 4.
Okay, we're already at 4, so I'm going to take this before Zach jacks me because I've left it hanging out there while I took some other ones that Ben may have been interested in, or someone else may have been interested in on the Discharge side or whatever. But now I've got to take it. I've got to take possibly the best guitar riff of 1980. The way this guitar sounds and just everything about this song. I'm going Badman, Cockney Rejects.
All right.
I absolutely love this. It like it just comes out, but the way that the distortion on the guitar is just so perfect. It's so perfect. And then the way the rest of the band kicks in is just so good. And the delivery of the verse vocals are very rudimentary and very easy, very oi to sing along to. You tell me, but they're tuneful and they're just catchy. And then the chorus riff is amazing with "You're a bad man." It's
so good.
Absolutely, Zach. Thank you for doing that because I would fuck it up, even though like I love it. I just have tuneless. Absolutely love it, and it's an all timer. It's an absolute all timer for me. I love this song with every particle of DNA in my body.
Yeah, is that lead kind of the chorus? Because it's like he leads up to going, "You're a bad man," and then it's just it like crescendos up to that. It's so nice.
Yeah. And I love this with every particle of DNA in my body, even before I've paid to come.
Dude, every amoeba in your body, both versions, LP and Rodney on the Rock.
That's right.
All right, Ben, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's got that cool repeating guitar riff, and it makes me wonder if that, like, you get New Age by Blitz later, and a lot of Blitz does that sort of thing a lot, and I think maybe this song is what introduces that as sort of a oi trope, if you will. Like, this is an option you can do as an oi band, because I'm trying to think of Sham 69 songs that came earlier that do that, and I can't. Nothing is springing to mind. So
Ben, would you say this is the 1 full stop 5? That's the the English point. The 1 full stop 5 bridging between the Clash and proper oi later on. Is that what you're saying?
No, this is proper oi. I think, right? Wouldn't you? Yeah.
But damn, he served you up, Ben, and he still shot it down, huh?
Well, I have the song "Oi Oi Oi" as an honorable. So,
now,
get 3 OI points.
Now you only get 43 seconds for your honorables. So
Time's up, sucker.
all right, I'm going to take my number 4. I am going to stick on the Discharge train. I'm going to take Religion Instigates. And this is the other line that I think is like Khaled is angriest. He's like, well, you ass crawling bastards, suck my arse. It's like, oh, yeah, dude. Religion, Jesus Christ, it's all a fucking farce. Like, that's the verse, dude. It's so sick. And then I love, like, this is a song really without a chorus, but that other part of the song when it says, like, a stray bullet kills an innocent child, nothing's gained and nothing's solved. Like, I don't know. I think one of y'all said, like, some of the lyrics aren't that deep, but that's pretty fucking poetic, dude. To have a line like that just sitting out there on an island in a punk song, like, that's poetry, bro. You know what I mean? Like, that is dark. It fits the whole mood of this band. It fits the whole mood of every band that would ever try to jack this band. You know what I mean? They're in just like straight up 2 lines, you know? So I don't know. I absolutely love it. Okay, let's see here. Let's jump on to the next. And Ben, what is your number 4?
Well, it was going to be the Rodney on the Rock version of Agent Orange Bloodstains, but I'm going to play nice, Zach. I'm not going to pick it because, like you said,
I mean, Clevo did talk about it on 1981, right? We all talked about it.
That's true. Let's not repeat
and
ourselves.
You and Dan are always wanting to do this like super old stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
But like, you know, people don't love it. But then it's like, if we're doing an old year and then you pick everything from like the later year, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go DC. I'm going to put X's on my hands. I'm going to go to Discord Records and I'm going to pick Sneakers by Teen Idols. Put on the sneakers and be a kid. Why don't you go and have some fun? And it's sort of like the precursor to the song Minor Threat, because it's like you're growing up fast and you're dropping the ball as a youth. You know, you shouldn't try to show off for the older types and, you know, do what they do. And it really, I mean, obviously this is overshadowed by Minor Threat. Like, this is a footnote in the story of Minor Threat, but it's really a good record and it's really a good song. Like, I do listen to it quite often. And it sounds like there's something about the bass that just sounds like thunder, you know, it's like on this record. And come on, that cover art, fucking Discord number 1. How can you front on that?
It's really good. Like, if it came out in 81, it would slide in with all that stuff, right? It's that good. And this is the track. And this is definitely a Dan Jack move. What about it, Dan?
Absolutely. This was going to be on my list. I feel like this may have been written by Ian lyrically, but I don't know that. I mean, they were a tight unit. So, I mean, but this is the precursor to the way Minor Threat are taking that position of, we're not, you know, not wanting to be out there getting fucked up. It's kind of like, yeah, let's enjoy childhood. And I believe his name's Nathan, right? The singer.
Yeah, Nathan. Yeah.
His vocals are so good.
Yeah.
On this song in particular. I mean, on the whole 7-inch, great. But on this song in particular, his vocals are so good. I really do love it. Great song. Great choice.
Clevo, what do you think?
Yeah, it's again, that whole proto DC, that everything just kind of blossoms out of this, because, you know, the Teen Idols, going on tour, going to the West Coast, and those guys coming back and, you know, really really seeing what's happening on the West Coast and bringing that West Coast idea back to the East Coast. It's like I said in the beginning, that we're really going to talk a lot about the West Coast, you know, talk a little bit about England, but, you know, it's really there wasn't really, you know, hardcore on the East Coast, because we're still talking about such an early time.
I love it. I love it. Let's see. Yeah, let's go to Jesus Christ. Got too many tabs. I'm gonna edit the fuck out of this. Okay, let's go to Clevo for his number 5.
I'm gonna take Dead Kennedys, Kill the Poor, off
Yeah.
of the Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables album. We talked a little bit about the Dead Kennedys and on the 1980 episode, and we were talking about the sort of Jello-isms and what we see Jello become, but really, they were just such a straightforward, fast punk band, very political, very very on point, satirical, and just really, had a message and was really just like, again, like, talked about Discharge on my last pick, but, their whole attitude was smash the fucking system. Like they really, Jello was, he was probably a bit of a hippie. He was very political and he was very politically active, and that comes across his lyrics. And I love, his sort of, taking on to like convince liberals it's okay, like we can kill the poor, like we can get rid of them, but like saying it from a place of humor, but really getting his point across. Did everyone get the joke? I don't know, but really I think that super important band. Whatever you think about them later, and whatever you think about Jello's vocals later, as he becomes more of a performer in the band. I think that really the first couple albums are just so vital to listening and things that people should get into.
Yeah, his voice is already pretty wild here, though, like just right out the gate. But it's sick, and this song is very friendly to the ears and very sarcastic, right? Like he is just needling people with sarcasm. So, yeah, what do you think, Ben?
I love it. This is my favorite Dead Kennedys record, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. Not my favorite song on the album. Maybe I'll pick one later. I want to keep that option open, but a great song nonetheless. And it's almost like he's not just being sarcastic lyrically, but he's almost being sarcastic musically too, because he's like, tonight, like he's doing the whole, 60s pop music like thing with complete tongue planted firmly in cheek. Just like, it's funny, these guys were like smarter and a little bit older than the rest of the hardcore scene. I guess Black Flag too. But lyrically, it comes across more with Dead Kennedys. So, yeah, it's great. And it's funny that like the reason that the IRS Records version of this album looks like that is because they said, we want there to be more orange on the record cover because it's a photo of a cop car on fire. So they meant the fire part should be orange. And someone at the label made every other part of the image orange. So it's just like this orange fucking garbage mess, which is like, it looks terrible. It's hilarious. I'm sure the record's worth like hundreds of dollars now, though.
What's your take, Dan?
Yeah, I like that Ben shouted out the fact that it's kind of like it's almost doing like a 60s soul thing, like how, like the contours, can you dance, those kind of thing, like with the talky part, and then once it gets going, he's like going full blown. And yeah, like you said, Zach, this is an acquired taste vocally. Like if you're not ready for this, like this is crazy, but what a creative band. What a tour de force lyrically. I mean, this is a great pick, Clevo. I'm really glad Dead Kennedys are on here. I had them milling around my next couple picks, so I'm really glad that they're on.
Number 5, Dan.
I'm going to do another cover, and I'm just being true to myself. I'm going to go from my favorite Ramones record, which is End of the Century, and I'm going to do their cover. They were produced by Phil Spector on this LP, and they are covering a song he wrote with for the Ronettes called Baby I Love You. And it is magical with the strings, just like giving that wall of sound to the Ramones, who just grew up on that stuff and like loved all of the girl group stuff in the formation of their band. And I feel like this is a slow ballad, like such a singer, such a, I DJ many of my friends' weddings, and I always make sure I play this song like right before, like not literally right before the ceremony, but in the build up to the ceremony, while people are sitting down and everyone is just head nodding and just loving it, because A, it's an ode to love, and B, it's done by a psychopath who holds a gun to the Ramones and makes them stay in the studio to finish it. And it just came out perfectly. So, bad people can do good things. And this is a brilliant song.
What's your take, Clevo?
Yeah, I think that, the Ramones like the idea of a Phil Spector record more than their fans probably did. I think there's definitely cuts on this, and I actually was going to take something else, but I'm probably going to go a different direction since you took something off this record, Dan, because I need space to take some other stuff, to talk about some other stuff. But yeah, really, I think that this record, you either love it or you hate it. Because of the production, but I think coming from where definitely like, what Joey and the rest of the band's influences are, really they were so psyched to work for Phil Spector, and that, the shine wore off of that pretty quickly.
Yeah. The song Be My Baby by the Ronettes is maybe the greatest song ever. There's an argument to be made for that, and I would not argue against that. So Baby I Love You is like their second best song, and it's only slightly beneath Be My Baby. But this Ramones version, it's weird. It's like they wrote new string arrangements that didn't exist in the original version. It's like they worked extra hard to make the song sound quite different than the original, and it like doesn't work for me. This is still a good album, but I don't. Phil Spector producing the Ramones is better on paper than in reality, because like the Ramones don't exist without Phil Spector, without the stuff that Phil Spector did in the 60s. So it's like, this is a match made in heaven. How could it go wrong? And it's like, I don't know. The first 3 Ramones albums sound better than this one to me, although this is great. I mean, it's like we're talking about one of the greatest bands ever. It's like their top 7 or 8 albums are better than, almost all of the rest of recorded music. So it sounds like I'm talking shit, which I sort of am, but it's the fucking Ramones. Like,
Ben has had 1.5 of his brains removed for that take.
Yeah, and just for the record, the greatest song of all time is "Hallowed Be Thy Name." The fuck is going on here? Okay. I'm gonna take a Wipers song following Dan. I'm gonna take the song "I Don't Know What I Am." This is my favorite song off this record. In its simplicity, every piece of this. So I love the verse riff. And then he opens it up a little bit. So good. And then the lyrics are simple too. I don't know what I am. So nice. But the best thing about the song is it's the greatest solo in the history of punk. So simple, just like hitting that one note and then like letting the feedback come in as like a part of the song. Like it's like the feedback creates a whole different note. So it's just like, it's just a note, bends, feedback, and then he shreds for like a tiny little bit on the end. So good. And yeah, I don't know. It's my favorite on the record. Although fucking Dan's song is nice too. Mystery is nice too. There's a lot of good songs in this record. It's one of my favorite records of all time. But this is my favorite. What do you think, Clevo?
Yeah, since two songs have been taken off this, I'm probably not going to take anything off of this. But man, this record is just so great. Just start to finish. It kind of has a bit of everything. I personally would have taken "Is This Real" if I was going to take anything off of this, or maybe "Tragedy." But really, just such a great band. And we were talking before, Ben, you had mentioned about influence. But there's I don't know what the documentary is, and I haven't been able to find the video in a while, so this is probably worthless. But there's some live footage of the Wipers playing, and it's different bands talking about them. And one of the people talking about them is Pig Champion. The other part is Dead Moon talking about like how influential the Wipers were on them, and it would not necessarily. Tom says that not necessarily it's the music, although it is driving, but the Poison Idea sounds completely different. But Tom says that they took like that darkness piece of the lyrics and added, like Jerry added those to their lyrics. So regardless of what how grungy it sounds, I think that they were just huge in the Pacific Northwest to everyone who was up there.
Yeah, I want to say a couple last things about the Wipers before we move on from them. I love that first Greg Sage LP, like the solo LP, like a lot. And I believe it's on streaming so everyone can check it out. Also, his origin story is pretty sick. Like when he was a teenager, he played guitar in that band Beauregard. And Beauregard is it's like a famous regional rustler from Portland, Oregon. So like there's a single that comes out in 71 and the LP comes out in 71 too. So I think he was like 13 or 14 years old playing in a band with like this big local pro wrestler named Beauregard. That's pretty sick, right? And then it's not until I believe that first Wipers 7-inch is 79. So he doesn't do anything else like on record for 8 years. So it's kind of a wild origin story there. And also, I believe Ben mentioned that, most people focus on the first 3 Wipers records. And for me, it's just 1 and 3. The second record, I kind of don't like at all, if I'm being honest. Like the songs are super long. It's like a perfect example of a sophomore slump, in my opinion. Like he just gets a little too maybe high on his own supply and just writes like really long songs. So I don't know. And then he dials it back in for the third one, which is another great record. So yeah, that's what I think on this. Okay, Ben, let's go to you for your next pick.
All right, here's where I pick something where everyone scratches their head. But I have to do it because I love it. In Vancouver, around this time, Vancouver, British Columbia, that is, not Vancouver, Washington, there was a big punk scene, not just DOA and Canadian Subhumans. There were these other bands that sort of bordered on power pop. I'm sure Zach would hate them, but they were definitely punk bands. One was the Modernettes, one was the Young Canadians, one was the Pointed Sticks, and the Modernettes had this 12-inch called Teen City. And here's something funny. Bob Rock engineered a lot of this stuff before he went full-on hair metal, Metallica, whatever phase of his life. So Bob Rock engineered this Modernettes record, and the song is called Barbara. And the music video for this, which, this is the year before MTV starts, 1980. And I don't know in Canada if they had music video shows happening or where this would have gotten played, but it's on YouTube. This is the greatest music video ever made. It's just a guy who has a crush on a girl named Barbara in his high school. Like that's pretty much it, but it's just so goddamn catchy and great. Modernettes, definitely one of the first punk bands I ever heard, via my dad's friend Gene Scalati, who was actually turned on to this stuff when Angry Samoans went up there and Mike Saunders brought back a lot of these records and said, you got to check out all these Vancouver bands. There's a whole thing up there. So Modernettes, Barbara, that's my pick.
All right. And let's go to Clevo for his round number 6.
I'm going to take off of the album Los Angeles by the band X. What song am I going to take? I didn't realize it's going to be my turn already. Yeah, I'm going to take Nausea. It's the grinder on here. But I love just how dirgy this song is. It's really, Exene's vocals on the choruses or on the verses are just so great. Today you're going to be sick, sick, sick. And just like, really, I guess the song, equates to being nauseous, because it just kind of grinds. It's mid tempo, and it just really, I just really, it's a standout on this album, because nothing else on this album really sounds like it. So yeah, I love this track. It's also on the Decline soundtrack. So yeah, just X. You know, we were talking on the 1981 episode, and I had said, you know, Wild Gift also has tracks, but this is the album to go to if you want to check out X.
Ben, what's your take on this?
Yeah, this is the opening credits to Decline. I mean, the live version, that is. But I always think of this is where they show people slam dancing and they freeze frame it. And then you see Darby Crash looking at the camera and it freeze frames it while he's making a face. I always think of that when I hear this song. Ray Manzarek from The Doors, the keyboard player for The Doors, produced the first 4 X albums. And he's playing keyboard on this, or organ on this song. And yeah, it's got this dirge like quality to it that I can't think of other X songs that have that quality to it. But you sort of, that almost, it's probably not because of X, but it sort of becomes a formula where punk records always have that one, like, here's our slow song, here's our one slow song. Like, that's what we're allowed. Although I don't think X adhered to that formula, or it hadn't existed yet. But such an interesting band. Like, they have this rockabilly thing going on. They have this sort of male and female layered vocal thing where, like, if you hear Exene singing by herself, she's just not in key. It's like not very great. And then John Doe singing over her, it just becomes this like magical thing that totally works. So there's really no other band like them. And they're still around all these years later. The same four people
on their final tour.
Yep.
I was between Nausea and Your Phone's Off the Hook, which I think really, I love the way that the male and female vocals layer on Your Phone's Off the Hook.
Hell yeah, great song.
I don't love this record. In fact, I can pretty safely say I don't like it. And it's one of the rare old punk records that I kind of feel that way about. I have it in my sell pile right now. And so I just listened to it again recently because, you know, when you sell off old records, it's like, am I going to be able to get this back if I regret it right away? You know what I mean? And I listened to it again. I was like, nah, it's time to go. I don't know. It just doesn't connect with me for whatever reason. It's boring. They were boring on the documentary, and it just never connected with me. I don't know. Okay, Dan, let's go to you for your number 6.
Okay. I'm going to go with one of the best lyricists of all time, and with a song that is just a stomper, but also completely interesting playing from the guitar point of view. And I'm going with Totally Wired by The Fall. I love this song so much. Starts out like the drums are really bouncy and hard, and then Marquis Smith comes in. I'm totally wired, and it's just with the cool backups of like Steve Hanley and Mark Riley doing the "Can't you say?" Like, it's so good, and I absolutely love the lyrics. Like, my butterfly stomach growls. I drank a jar of coffee, then I took some of these. You know, you could just see him with a handful of pills. Marky Smith definitely liked a good time with using booze and other stuff. But it just builds and builds. But the guitar is so interesting and doing a lot of things. Like, this is on the cusp of, I mean, I think this is a punk song, but, you know, they're legendarily a post-punk band, but this song is very much of a punk stomper to me. I love playing this song when I DJ, and the aspect of being totally wired and just filled with anxiety, and it's just transmitted so brilliantly in this, and the way it like dissipates near the end of the song, and it's going, and I'm always worried. And I'm always worried. Oh my God. I don't know if anyone struggles with anxiety out there. I do. And fuck, this song really just dials that in. When you wake up at 3 a.m., you can't get back to sleep, and you are totally wired with anxiety. This song is just, it's so fucking good.
What's your take, Clevo?
Yeah, I was going through the, the different different sites and different how we compile the information for this, and I saw this. I was like, I actually thought you would take this first, Dan, because I know how you feel about this. Also, I usually slip this into my DJ nights too. I don't get the fall. And I think that's just because there's just too much to try to sift through. It wasn't something I got in the time, but this is definitely, I think if you need a place to start with the fall, this is probably a good inroad.
Okay, I'm going to take my number 6, and Ben alluded to Vancouver in his last round. I'm going to take the Subhumans song No Productivity. This is the Canadian Subhumans. And this is a song I discovered on whatever version of the Killed by Death comp that they were on. And that was like an interesting time in my life. You know, we hit these as punk lifers, right? You kind of run into a wall sometimes and you're like, I'm bored of everything that I've been listening to, you know, and then you find like a different nook or cranny in this big, beautiful beast that we call hardcore punk. And this was one of them. Those first 4 Killed by Death compilations were so fun for me to like discover all these like new rando ass bands. And while not everything on it is great, some of the stuff is just so magical. And this is one of them, a band that I discovered, and I really like all their material, or I should say like the first singles and the first couple records. But this is my favorite song, and it's like a weird, kind of sleazy song like that. I don't know. It's hard to describe what that guitar does. You guys should check it out on the playlist, 185milessouth.com. Click the playlist link at the top of the page, or just look for us on Spotify. But like the guitar goes like, it's so weird in a way, but I just love it. And then it just sounds like one of those like nihilistic punk songs, right? Like no productivity, force negativity. And then again, just sleazy, like standing in an alley on a Saturday night. So sleazy, dude. You know, if you're not standing in an alley, you're standing like on the fucking street holding up a lamppost. You know what I mean? It's just like got that vibe. So yeah, I love this shit. Dan, what's your take on this?
I just wanted to say that I'm so glad like that we, you know, have been doing this pod for quite some time, because this pod and you hipped me to this, and you know, I thought it was sacrilegious that there was another Subhumans, and this is so good, and it's earlier. So respect. It's so good. Check it out, listeners.
Yeah, you know, I think the difference is we don't even have to say Canadian Subhumans and UK Subhumans. I think that the UK band is the Subhumans and the Canadian band is simply Subhumans.
True.
So the is the difference. Okay, Ben, let's go to you for number 6.
I still might say Canadian Subhumans. Don't hate me. All right, number 6. I'm going to go with a song that is so catchy and so fun and so unnecessarily mean. Get Off the Air by the Angry Samoans. It's a song about Rodney Bingenheimer of Rodney on the Rock fame. This is very much not on the Rodney on the Rock comp. They're just tearing into this poor guy. He was the big punk rock DJ in LA from the 70s on. And I can't remember. I got to the bottom of this and I have since forgotten, like, why did they hate this guy so much? But the lyrics are hilarious. It's like, you're a fucking piece of shit now, Rodney. It's like, God damn. He can't read, baby. He can't talk. He's LA's favorite punk rock jock. Glitter bands and Bowie's cock are his ideas of new wave rock. And then I had an internet radio show in the very, you know, in the stone age of internet radio, 2002, 2003, called Get Off the Air. And I took the Back from Samoa record cover where where the monster is holding the severed head, and I glued up Rodney Bingenheimer's severed head, so the monster was holding his head. It's so fucking mean. Anyway, that's still a great song. Sorry.
It's a good song. Yeah, and they totally body Rodney here, huh?
Certainly. They make fun of his teeth.
Yeah, they say he's like beating off to Joan Jett.
Spewing off in Joan Jett's hair.
That's something. Yeah, when did they switch their name to be the Angry Samoans? Weren't they? I thought that they were still the Queer Pills at this time.
No, they started as the Angry Samoans, and then they put out one single as the Queer Pills, I think, between the first and second Angry Samoans record. And I think that might have been a way to get Rodney Bingenheimer to play the record. Like, he won't know it's really us.
I think that's actually, they did that as a spoof to actually get on the air because Rodney wouldn't play the records.
So they went back and forth. Yeah, because this is 80. The Queer Pill 7-inch is 81. And then they put out the Back from Samoa in 82. So hell yeah. This is cool. Clevo, what do you want to say on this?
Yeah, I think that, this EP itself is, I don't think this EP is as good as Back from Samoa. But definitely, I think it's really, you could see what they're doing. I've said for a while that this is a band that couldn't exist today. Besides talking about jacking off in Joan Jett's hair, they definitely another example of just being another time and place. But there's some great cuts on this EP. I think this is probably the one. This and Give Me Sopor, which because Ringworm covered it, which is I always thought was a weird choice for a cover. But this is probably known just because it's the Rodney song that got them into the beef with Rodney.
Okay, we are to the heartbreak round. Clevo, what is your 7th and final pick?
Yeah, so one nice thing about all the punk that we're talking about tonight is I think all my picks are actually on Spotify this time. But I'm gonna take Buzzcocks, the song "Running Free" from the "Running Free" single. I got turned on to this because Naked Raygun covered it, and it actually sounds like a Naked Raygun song. To me, I guess because I heard the Naked Raygun version first, and it's also about living in suburbia. But I think that it's also a little bit out of left field for Buzzcocks. I think that when you think of them, I think you think of them as being poppier. And this song is a little bit more a little bit more downtrodden, a little bit less so-called happy sounding. But yeah, it's about being in suburbia and just living your life and just kind of being stuck in that rut of like work and home and the suburbs. So great song, check it out. Also the Naked Raygun version is also great, so check out both.
What's your take, Ben?
Yeah, they don't have any bad songs. That first run, the Buzzcocks were around 76 to 81, and then they broke up, and then they got back together after that. But I'm not talking about that later stuff. Like that 76 to 81 run is pretty flawless. Like, and this is towards the end of that, and I think they took the last 3 singles and they put them on a 12-inch called Many Parts because they had a similar graphic design theme. They were so. They maybe get the gold medal for punk rock graphic design. So tasteful. Running Free. I can't remember if I heard the Buzzcocks version or the Naked Raygun version first myself, but there's some sort of synthesizer thing happening on this song, and that sometimes doesn't work in punk. Sometimes that works against it, but it totally works for this song.
Yeah, I'm looking at it online now, and the cover of this one says Part 3. So I wonder if that was, by design.
Yeah, it's the third of it's like a series of singles, so somewhat inspired my band to do something similar on the internet. Numbering our shit.
Dan, what's your take on this?
What they said is really good. Like, it's not as quite love struck poppiness, and it's almost like it's the runway to Pete Shelley going onto like the Homo sapien like route that he is gonna go do, like just in the tone, like the tone of the vocal. Manchester on top always.
All right, we are going to go to Dan for the heartbreak round. Dan, you got one last chance. Do you believe in anarchy?
I know, I do. I do believe in it. When it comes to like maybe entering the floor for a concert or something, anarchy, smash your way to the front. but there are too many other songs that are in contention right now, and I'm not going to line step, although my honorable mentions will. um, I'm trying to decide, but do I go for the best undertone song on a not great undertones LP, or do I go one of the 4 amazing Stiff Little Fingers songs off the second Stiff Little Fingers LP? I'm going to go Tin Soldiers, Stiff Little Fingers. I love this song so much. I love it for the chorus. It's just absolutely unbelievable. But this is a band that is writing music in a somewhat of a just straight up war zone. They can't help but be completely immersed into the world that they're writing in. And the best thing about it is just thinking of it from a different angle and just thinking about these young men that are coming over and just wasting their lives, like being told what to do, and they are thinking about, like, well, what is the army giving them besides being told what to do? And they're just a prop up for this oppressive government that is oppressing themselves in their country. But at the same time, they're thinking, like, well, what is this person's life like? It's just, they've become a commodity and not a person anymore. They're just a tin soldier. And it's just a brilliant song. And the militaristic on the chorus, like tin soldiers, it's just so good, so catchy. And I love, I was debating between Gotta Get Away, Nobody's Hero, and At the Edge also, because 4 songs on this LP are all-timers, like, so great. And the Stiff Little Fingers are amazing when when the Dropkick Murphys write a song about how Jake from the Stiff Little Fingers is amazing. So when the Dropkick Murphys were good. So I'm going Tin Soldiers, Stiff Little Fingers. I think this is an incredible song, and Zach may say it's a little bit long, but you know what? If songs are long and they're just filled with goodness, I'm here for it.
It's sick, dude. The clapping part is even sick. So I love this song too. Ben, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's good. I had Nobody's Hero as an honorable. I think maybe because it's shorter.
Down to 40 seconds.
That's fine. Whatever.
Dan's saying he might be line stepping. What about Ben here, trying to get his honorables in early?
I love it. But Ben's always done this, and it's okay.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? This is when we're talking about this band. So I always thought the first album was the best. I still think that this second album is absolutely necessary to own. It's canon as well. And I always think about driving down the Grapevine into the Central Valley while listening to this song or listening to this album way too loud and just being terrified that I was gonna roll my car again, because it happened because my band at the time was recording in Oakland and we were driving up there, and I was just like, we had just gotten this horrendous car wreck, and I was just like I could feel the sweat just pouring down my body while listening to this fucking record way too loud.
Oh, listen to that, listeners. Yeah. The sweat purling off that Ben Edge body.
There you
go. I mean, you could A, slow down a little bit, or B, turn the stereo down a little bit. What?
Oh yeah, well, I was peer pressured into playing. Well, really
Ben always saying, like, well, I have this on my honorables. That's like low key sunning us. Like, this wasn't good enough to make my list.
Yeah.
Do you think I could, because I don't intend it to come off that way, but if it does, I'll stop doing that.
Yeah. No, Ben said it was at the back end of his honorables too. Total disrespect.
No, I didn't.
It barely made his honorable list, so there's that. Okay, I'm gonna take my number 7, and dude, I'm leaving frat cars on the table for Ben to swoop if he wants to do the right thing for the playlist. But I'm going to jump over to Japan, and I'm going to take a song by the band Anarchy. They actually put out this song. It's on their first single, and it is also the first song on their first LP. It's called either No Satisfied or Not Satisfied. It's in Japanese, so no one will ever really know. But I love this thing. It's very, I don't know, 70s type punk in the way that it sounds very melodic, and it's kind of just stripped down rock and roll, but like what makes it punk is like the delivery. So I guess if you compare it to like the Sex Pistols or something like that, it's kind of in that range, and that's actually where they got their name from. They took Anarchy from Anarchy in the UK. But yeah, I love his delivery on the verses, just da ba da 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 ba da da ba da 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 ba da 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 ba da 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 da. You know, and it all builds up to no satisfied. Da 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 da. So it's sick, dude. The verses are super melodic. It sounds super punk, and it's one of those things that I discovered. I did a whole project where I listened to like a shit ton of 7 inches that were pre 1984, and I gotta say, a lot of it was shit, but I found some serious gems in there, and this is one of them. So the song No Satisfy by Anarchy out of Japan. Okay, Ben, let's go to you for your final pick, and the final pick of 1980.
Well, I was listening to this Anarchy song when I was on mute, and it is excellent. So good pick, Zach. I'm still very ignorant of a lot of non-English speaking punk, even though No Satisfied, that's English. So, okay, here it is. The 28th best punk song of 1980. So far, everything I've picked is from the continent of North America. So I'm going to spread the love. I'm going to pick a song called 1, 2, 3 by The Professionals. The Professionals were Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols, vocals and guitar, Paul Cook from the Sex Pistols, drums, and some dude on bass. So if you love the Sex Pistols, this is musically very similar. Obviously, Steve Jones has a very different voice than Johnny Rotten, but so catchy. Now it's 1, I'm on the run, and it's 2, I don't know what I've done, and it's 3, now you're telling me I'm still a baby. Just incredible, catchy punk with great guitar solos or solo. And it's sort of like it's the antidote to Public Image Limited, because when the Sex Pistols break up, Johnny Rotten becomes John Lydon, his birth name, and then starts this post-punk band and gets super arty. I like some of it.
I think something happened on my end. I'm going to stop the recording.
Steve Jones and Paul Cook.
All right, and we go to Ben for his final pick and the final pick of the night. Number 7, Ben.
All right, so far all of my picks have been from the North American continent, so I'm going to spread the love, and I'm going to go across the pond. I'm picking The Professionals with the song 1, 2, 3. So the Sex Pistols broke up in 78. John Lydon, a.k.a. Johnny Rotten, started Public Image Limited, who are a very arty post-punk band. And Steve Jones and Paul Cook, the guitar player and drummer of the Sex Pistols, started The Professionals. So it's Steve Jones on vocals and guitar, Paul Cook on drums, and some dude on bass. And so they put out their first 2 singles in 1980, and then they only had 1 LP, which came out the following year. And all of it's really good. I think this song 1, 2, 3 might be their catchiest. It's just a fun mid-tempo rockin' punk song with a rad guitar solo. Very anthemic, and it's almost makes me wonder what they if the Sex Pistols had made a proper second LP, and you took the best Public Image Limited and the best Professional songs and the best Rich Kids songs, because that's Glenn Matlock's post Sex Pistols band, and you put and you just had Johnny Rotten singing over all of it. It's like, damn, that would have been like pretty close to being as great as Nevermind the Bollocks. So The Professionals, it's like, if you ever heard the Great Rock and Roll Swindle soundtrack, there's a couple songs Steve Jones and Paul Cook sing on that one. That's sort of like the warm up for The Professionals. So sort of like a a hidden gem in and they shouldn't be. It's like, come on, these are like the two guys from one of the biggest punk bands ever. Why doesn't everybody know the Professionals? Why aren't they a household name? But they aren't. So it's sort of like, if you want more, you come to the Professionals.
What do you think, Clevo?
Yeah, I think, we've chatted about this time and time. I think it's, to piggyback on Ben's point, that it's crazy that this stuff is just really so under the radar, because the songs are great. Like it's all of the records. What is it? There's an LP and there's a couple singles, Ben. Yeah, and it's like, it's all great, and it's just like, it's crazy for someone getting into punk, like 10-ish years after the Sex Pistols, where everyone's like, you have to hear the Sex Pistols, you have to hear the Sex Pistols, and no one ever brought this up. I probably didn't find out about this until probably late 90s, early 2000s. So it's really something worth checking out, because of the fact that, like, you hear all of this stuff about, like the Sex Pistols couldn't play their instruments, but, talk to Steve Jones and it couldn't be further from the truth. The dude could write a song.
What's their take, Dan?
Yeah, I think that this band suffers the gift and the curse of being associated with the Sex Pistols. I think the gift is, like, when people find out, oh shit, Steve Jones and Paul Cook did something after, then they'll want to check it out and really enjoy it because it is great music. But the curse is that, there's certain bands that, like, the zeitgeist was just so huge that the Johnny Rotten going in a completely different direction allowed, and, incorporating the reggae and then the post-punk and all of that stuff into what PIL was, allowed for, and also because he was kind of the voice box of the band and the controversy that it allowed for that. And the press I think the music press just regarded Paul Cook and Steve Jones as just like the yobs, the like dummies of the band, and never really gave this the fair shake because the other side was going so artsy and the music was transitioning to that. But the Professionals and Steve Jones in particular know how to write a song, and this is a catchy one.
All right, let's go to honorable mentions. Dan, kick it off.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to Clevo. All right. Stiff Little Fingers, Gotta Get Away, Nobody's Hero, At the Edge. Wipers, Tragedy, Is This Real? UK Subs, Warhead. Undertones, My Perfect Cousin. The Damned, Wait for the Blackout. How is that not on my list? What the fuck?
What the fuck?
For real. The Clash, Somebody Got Murdered, another Mick Jones banger. Sneakers, Teen Idols, Pay to Come, Bad Brains. Do you remember Rock and Roll Radio and I Want You Around by the Ramones? Dicks Hate the Police, Frat Cars, Big Boys. Why is that on nobody's list? Deny Everything, Beverly Hills, Wasted, Circle Jerks. Holiday in Cambodia, California Uber Alles. Those songs aren't on our lists. Wow. Army Life, I Believe in Anarchy, Exploited. Last Rockers, Vice Squad. Now, this is an interesting one. Unite and Win, Sham 69. This is like when Sham is like not very good, but this song is so good. Start by The Jam. And then if I was really going to line step, this may have been in my list. That's Entertainment. Happy House, Susie and the Banshees. Spellbound, Susie and the Banshees. Love Will Tear Us Apart, Joy Division. Isolation, Joy Division. Rock and Roll High School, The Ramones. Fight Back, Discharge. Always, Restrictions, Discharge. You Take Part in Creating the System, Discharge. The Last Goodbye, Agent Orange. Living in Darkness, Agent Orange. War on the Terraces, Oi Oi Oi. I'm Not a Fool, Cockney Rejects. And I Want to Destroy You by the Soft Boys.
Clevo, honorable mentions.
The Clan, Pushing Too Hard.
Yeah.
Maybe would have been a little bit of line stepping, but Misfits 12 Hits from Hell is recorded in 1980, even though it technically never came out, but great compilation there. Black Flag, Jealous Again. Ramones, Chinese Rock. Agent Orange. Exploited, Army Life. The Wipers, Is This Real? And Tragedy. Angry Samoans, Gimme Sopa or Hot Cars. And the Damned, Black Album.
Big Boys, Frat Cars, Mass Media, Kent Agent or Urgent. Shout out Staffin, shout out Frederick, shout out Anti-CMX, shout out the Shit Lickers, and shout out Mob 47. Got the Anarchy song. There you go. The Stalin, the second song off their first Flexi. And shout out Kazushi Sakuraba, the Diet Butcher, Kenti Kobashi, and to the Burning Hammer. Cockney Rejects, Badman, Dan Got It, Exploited, I Believe in Anarchy, Gigi Allen, Don't Talk to Me, The Clan, Pushing Too Hard, RF7, Acts of Defiance. Talk about a one-hit wonder 7-inch, right? That song is so sick and everything else is kind of whatevs. Sato Nation, On Whom They Beat, The Freeze, I Hate Tourists, Shameful, the Clevo didn't dip in there. That is a Kill by Death classic, another song that I discovered off that, because I didn't know that early Freeze shit. Also from the Subhumans, the Canadian version, Firing Squad, The Urinals, the song Sex. This is like the ultimate Killed by Death band, and I don't know if they were ever on any of those comps, but like when I think about a Killed by Death comp, I think about bands that sound like the Urinals. Sham 69, Unite and Win, Neo Boys, Never Comes Down. Shout out to Aaron and Micah and Jerry A and all the dudes up in Portland who the pod loves. Also, we got a shout out to the Donnie Fury 7-inch. This is Don Fury. He played in a band this year, put out a record. I'd love that if anyone has a second copy. The band The Eat, they did a song called Silly Drug Songs, and this is a Florida band. So shout out to Florida, shout out to Dave Bird, the Eddie Graham Territory, to the Florida Powerhouse, but no shout out to those two Where Fear and Weapons Meet songs on the Super Soul comp that were 1/4 of what killed 90s Youth Crew. Also PF Commando, the song Alt OK, and Ramones, The Return of Jackie and Judy. We go to Ben. You got 45 seconds.
I have a Spotify playlist. It's entitled 1980 Bedges Punk Hardcore Super 7. It contains my picks and exactly. Contains my picks and all my honorables. So there's just too much to read.
All right. Well, we'll have to use that explosion for Dan, who got a little long-winded there.
Please do.
Ben, do you think it was warranted on Tans?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was because Dan got a line steppy and then he honed it back in. He's like, oh, here's a bunch of stuff, this line steppy, and then Discharge fight back. You know, how do you come out of that with fight the system, fight back, fight the system, fight back? It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
I gotta say, I listened to the 1981 thing, and where Ben gets Time's Up Sucking, Zach's list of honorables was like 4 minutes long.
It's almost like I do the podcast and have to do all the editing, so I get special privileges. You know what I'm saying? This is not a fucking democracy. What's up? Okay, Dan,
We're
final
fighting
thoughts.
the system and fighting back against this oppression.
Hey, what are you going to do? Okay, Dan, final thoughts.
1980, what a year. I mean, amazing. Like, this was really fun to do.
Clevo, final thoughts.
Again, every year is a good year for hardcore.
Ben, final thoughts.
This completes the 80s and the 90s for us for Super 7, so it's sort of a special occasion. I don't know. It's up to Zach if we're ever going to do any years in the 70s, but if we aren't, then 20th century complete. So this is a real moment for us.
Yeah, I don't know if we will, because like it's a hardcore punk podcast, right? Like I feel like the 70s are so covered in kind of mainstream media, and it's this stuff that kind of isn't covered. You know, it's like the whole 80s of punk and hardcore is kind of always, you know, off the map. It's like, okay, there's the Sex Pistols and the Ramones, then punk dies, and then Nirvana happens, then Green Day happens. You know what I mean? Like that's what like the mainstream shit is. And all that UK stuff was pretty big time. And it's like, it's covered in lots of spaces. I don't know if we need to be handling that. Plus, I'll say it again, these old episodes, like the 80s, like people do not give a fuck anymore, which is heartbreaking because 80s hardcore is the best shit there is. And I will sing it from the mountaintops. So again, if you love this shit, tell a friend about it. You know, and spread it, share it, whatever the fuck. Cause like literally the 90s are the new 80s. And I think that, you know, kids will pay like passing respects to the 80s. Like, oh, I like the Bad Brains or like one or two things. But, you know, the mass majority of people are not getting into this stuff anymore, which is, it's a bummer. You know, it's one of those things about getting old, you know, where it's like the stuff that you think is always going to be canon isn't always going to be canon. And that's a strange feeling. But, you know, it's up to people like us, I think, to always push it and keep it alive. And, you know, that's not just us, like the four of us on this podcast. It's you listening who loves this stuff as well. Like, again, let's shout it from the mountaintops. The 80s hardcore is the fucking shit, and that's what's up. Okay, Dan, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Instagram giving shout outs to Big Stone Dog, giving shout outs to DJ from Drats, and at Southport Instagrammer.
Ben, where can the people find you?
On Instagram at Future Confusion. Future Confusion is the name of my band. We are also on Bandcamp, Future Confusion, and Spotify, and whatever streaming services. I also am starting a Substack. I don't know if it'll be ready, but it will be called Word Attack. So Substack Word Attack, named after the Adolescence song.
Hell yeah. Clevo, where can the people find you?
On Instagram at Clevo.
All right, everyone get at me. First of all, 185milessouth.com. We are also on Substack, and you can email me, 185milessouth@gmail.com. We're also on all the social medias, 185 Miles South on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and whatever the fuck ever. I think there's even a Facebook. But if you want to get in touch, email is the best way. I respond to everyone. The DMs get a little weird, so don't get offended if I don't get back to you that way. But if you email me, I will respond. We love you all, just like we love 80s hardcore. We will talk to you again next Monday on Patreon.